And so, without further ado, I do hope you guys are ready for our next guest here. I've actually been trying to get this performer to come on for quite some time, and we finally have him here, and I'm excited because what you are about to see is peculiar magic in its finest form. I had met him some a couple years back, and I had seen him perform, and I was quite intrigued with the style that he had. More specifically, the storytelling that he does. This performer is a student of the Magic and Mystery School in Las Vegas. He is an author and a magician and also an occultist. So please, ladies and gentlemen, welcome a DHP Gastelum.
There once was a house on a hill. It's not there anymore. No. All that remains are memories and a key. Now, there's a key to the front and a key to the back, and keys to each and every door within. But this, well, my friends, this was the key. A key that could open every door inside and out, including the doors that must never be opened, and the doors you never thought to look for. There was a fire, and there usually is in these types of stories. As everything and everyone inside burned to the ground, it became abundantly clear all that would remain are memories and a key. Do you believe in ghosts? You should. They believe in you. But a ghost is never a translucent Victorian or Patrick Swayze. A ghost is history. A ghost is a story. A ghost is a memory that refuses to die. Who is the ghost bound to this key? The ghost of a house on a hill, which burned to the ground, succumbing to ash, which blew away in the wind. Good morning, everyone. My name is DHP Gastelum. And if I'm being honest, part of being a magician, it's trying to answer the bigger questions of our world. And a question that has followed me is, what's it like to be a magician? And I've thought long and hard about it, but the best way I can describe it is actually with a little metaphor. You see, there's this indie movie called The Matrix. You've probably never heard of it. And it stars Keanu Reeves as Neo. He enters a warehouse full of 90s hackers, and he meets Lawrence Fishburne playing Morpheus. And together, an ultimatum is put front and center. Take the blue pill, and you will wake up safe at home in bed in a world you have always known. But if you take the red pill, hey, your friends and family, they're a little concerned about you. Consider therapy. I hope that joke doesn't get you in trouble, Chris, because if I'm being honest, I was never asked to be in the Matrix. But it's probably for the best because if my past is any indication, if someone offers me a red pill and a blue pill, you know, I just take both of them. You guys see it too, right? It's not just me. That has definitely happened before. But life as a magician is a beautiful conundrum, a paradox, because you are both in front of and behind the curtain. The more you learn, the less you know. And sometimes that tumble down a rabbit hole is devastating, destructive, even. But the best way I can describe being a magician is that it's honestly, truly bizarre. Well, I have one more for you, and then we'll start the conversation. Chris, do you mind helping me out with this next one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, friend. This has been my favorite trick since I was a kid. I saw it first in Hollywood Magic, which doesn't exist anymore, but was an amazing shop. And it's called the world's most interesting card trick. Do you know why they call it the world's most interesting card trick?
I do not.
Because magicians are narcissists. But I've been studying this every day for 16 years. And usually for card tricks, the cards are spread and a card is selected, it's lost, and it's my job as a magician to find it and end the routine, probably with a pun. That's not that funny. But this is the world's most interesting card trick. So, Chris, I'm going to just riffle through the cards just like this and say stop somewhere in the middle.
Stop.
Right here?
Yes.
Wonderful. So, we're just going to use the top 4 cards. That's 1, 2, 3, and 4. Let's see how you did. Okay, so we've got the Ace of Diamonds. Very good. And the Ace of Clubs. And, oh my.
Oh.
4 aces. That's really good.
Yeah.
But it's the world's most interesting card trick. It doesn't stop here. When you do this routine for 16 straight years, you hear every theory on how it works. Threads, magnets, someone said holograms.
Yeah.
You know, that's in the budget. But the craziest theory I've ever heard was that, this is true. I could have 3 cards in this hand and 1 card in this hand. And a card goes up my sleeve and across my chest and down this sleeve.
Oh.
And just like that.
Wonderful.
Now, Chris, spades or clubs?
Spades.
Spades?
Yes.
You sure?
Yes.
Awesome. Just checking. Now, the last one is tricky because it has to travel alone.
Okay.
The Ace of Clubs. So I'm going to take the Ace of Clubs and leave it just right there.
Okay.
And make that ace jump from the table to my hand. Watch. And just like that, the Ace of Clubs jumps.
Wonderful.
Now, the world's most interesting card trick, it doesn't end with a pun, but I want to let you know that there is a punchline.
Oh.
Thank you very much.
Wonderful. Wonderful. DHP, thank you so much for sharing your unique style of magic. And, you know, the very first thing that really comes across my mind is that you're a storyteller. Is that accurate to say?
It is. I am not a very technical magician, but Eugene Berger was probably my biggest influence in that people care more about the story than what they're seeing. It's the experience really that matters.
Absolutely, and I think I definitely feel that emanating from the type of magic that you do, and I really enjoy that, and that's partly why we have you here today. Now, I understand. Can I ask you this question, DHP?
Absolutely anything.
How would you describe your magic? I know I just described it the way I kind of see it, but how would you describe yours in particular?
Over the years, it's definitely changed. And I think the style I've settled on is when people see me work, I want them to feel like they stepped into an episode of The Twilight Zone.
Wonderful.
It's an uncanny reality.
Yes.
It's close to ours, but there's something just a little off.
Well, I really appreciate it because definitely those are my influences. I grew up on the Twilight Zone, so I definitely understand the aesthetic that you're trying to get. And I love the presentation, the mystery. And I think people out there, you'll see a couple of people commenting and leaving threes. Obviously, they are, feeling the same, and I really appreciate them commenting and appreciating your style of magic. Now, now DHP. Now I have to ask you. You've been working at this art form for many years. What have you done to somewhat refine your style of magic or just your performance in general? What have you done to kind of take it to that next level?
For me, it's all about pushing what I'm comfortable with.
Yeah,
I think if you're always challenging yourself, you're never bored. And also performing in unconventional spaces. I
right.
used to do security for the Rocky Horror Picture Show, and I would go through the entire line doing strolling magic. And I
Wow.
got some time to practice, and I would also tell people in charge of cast to say, hey, this person's a little drunk or this person's being aggressive. I would watch out.
Yeah.
Just keep an eye on them.
So just constant performing is what she did. I think that's great advice for people out there, especially people who are looking to perform magic or start performing magic. Now, we had a discussion earlier, DHP, that you have a disability, and I wanted to highlight that as well, if you don't mind talking, because I think I identify with that as well. There was a point in my life where I was diagnosed with cancer and was diagnosed with a Parkinsonian tremor that prevented me from doing any sort of skill set like magic. And I know you've overcome it or at least are working with it. It's amazing that you can move very smoothly on stage. Could you share a little bit about that?
So, of course, I have a condition called tardive dyskinesia, which is a movement disorder very similar to Parkinson's. And it's mainly in my neck to where my head will tilt all the way back and I have to overcompensate and look like Uncle Fester a little bit. But I think innovation only comes through limitation.
Right.
And by finding material that worked for me, that still had all of my personality, it made me a better performer. And honestly, the support of all my friends and family,
Yeah,
it's definitely made me grateful and puts things in perspective.
absolutely. The fact that you are able to, well, you're right. The limitations sometimes can show and push your ability to something beyond you yourself can expect. And I think I see it here. I'm sure many people out there are seeing it as well. Had you not mentioned that to me, I probably wouldn't have noticed that you had any sort of movement disability or anything like that. So I commend you because it shows that you have put love and passion into this art, which I appreciate so much.
Thank you.
Now, on the topic of magic, when you perform, what do you hope your audience will get once they walk away from your performance?
In an ideal setting, as soon as they, as soon as we're not talking, I always love the image of two friends looking at each other like, "Hey, that just happened, right?" But I want them to leave with a story, and
Yes.
whether that's the story I tell through the routine, or a story of like, "Hey, I was in a bar in Koreatown, and this random guy walked up to our table, did close-up magic, and I don't think anyone else noticed him."
I love that. I think, the constant theme here in the discussion is stories.
Yes.
And which clearly shows you are a storyteller, and it shows in your magic, which leads me to ask you about your writing. You mentioned that you are a writer. I know you write comic books. Could you like touch on some of your works with writing?
Of course. I love comic books. It's something that I decided to get into at a young age, and I have done short stories that are standalone. I did a series called Aria, which is a
Yeah.
cyberpunk detective story. And lately, I've been talking with friends about the newest project I'm doing, Chaser, and it's about mental illness, addiction, and fighting giant monsters with guitars.
A great combination.
That's honestly a great stocking stuffer.
Okay.
But
Where
I
can they
think,
find that actually?
yeah. Oh, you can find it on dhpgastelum.com.
Okay.
And if you order today, you will also get it in time for Christmas.
Wonderful. And I have the banner up so people can find your work. Can they find other pieces of work or written works on there as well?
Yes,
Okay. Great. Now, is you mentioned also that you have a YouTube and you just finished a magic special or an episode. Could you
I
tell?
did. I did a 30-minute magic special at a show I did at the castle where future me goes back in time and says, "Hey, this show causes the apocalypse and it ends really bad. So I'm just going to tell you exactly how to mess me up."
That's pretty good. I mean, you definitely engage the audience with that sort of premise and whatnot. I'm going to put up your YouTube so people can find you because you're fairly active on there. Am I correct as far as YouTube?
Yeah, mostly. I'm trying to always put more stuff on there.
Yeah,
But you also have to manage things like time, and if you're disabled, effort. If you overwork yourself, you can't do what you need to do.
right, right. It can certainly affect the process, the creative process and whatnot, and you have to step back from it. I completely understand that. I think, another thing that I wanted to discuss with you is the the term occultist. Could you touch on that? Because I'm sure, even myself, I'm not too familiar with that really means, but for the people out there watching, how would you describe that?
For me, I have always been afraid of death, and I feel like that's pretty normal.
Mm,
But for me, it was a huge phobia where I just broke down at funerals.
yeah,
When David Bowie died, I was never the same. But really, I love the idea of ghosts
yeah,
and the idea of, it's not just people that are ghosts, it's places, it's things. It's the idea of a memory fighting so hard to come back to the people who made it.
yeah,
And that's such a human thing that it's in every single culture.
yeah,
So I think it's the mystery aspect of not knowing everything about the world
yeah.
and studying to try and make sense of it.
Right. That's a good analogy and just a definition of occultist, understanding the uncertainty of the world and being open to explanations beyond our understanding. And I totally get that. And I certainly felt that with your opening act today, which I hope that if people out there missed it, they go back and review your performance on that key. And I can definitely see, and it's a great pleasure, DHP, that you have given us a couple stories to ponder on. And I appreciate that very much. Is there anything else, or how about this, DHP? Is there any advice that you would like to give to people starting off in magic? Because I know we have a lot of people who are beginning.
So for beginners, the first thing I'm going to tell you is advice you've already heard. You need to read, watch, and study everything. But a
Yeah.
caveat I will give to that advice is that you can't just apply that to magic. You
Yes.
need to experience the world, study the art and music in it, and cultures especially. And as soon as you do that, you will have a massive amount of empathy.
Yeah.
And when you have that empathy, your pieces are always going to be better.
Yeah. Great advice. Absolutely. I think, that is that's the difficult part about starting with magic is simply finding your place and learning.
Right.
And so, you have to expose yourself to many references. What I would like to do now, DHP, is allow people to find you. I know you're on Facebook and I have the banner up. You're also on, it's DHP Gastelum.
Yes.
And then also on Instagram, you're DHP Gastelum there. So it's very easy to find. But I also know you have a pretty detailed website. So just as a reminder for people out there, if they want to find your works, they can go to your site, they can go to your Instagram and social media as well. Now, what I didn't mention before you were performing was is that I put a virtual tip jar in for you in the comments. So if anyone out there appreciates and likes what Daniel does, all the proceeds go to our performers here at Faust and Company, and I know he would appreciate it. So that would be for you, my friend.
Thank you very much. And I really appreciate all the help.
Absolutely. I think in this time especially, performers have definitely take a big hit. And, if we can all just kind of help each other out, I think that is just a great message. I'm looking at the comments now and I can tell you, I know some of the familiar faces on here, and I can tell you that there are a lot of people watching you right now from all over the parts of the world and in the United States. So I appreciate that with everyone. DHP, I have to ask you,
Yes.
we're going to close out the show. And first off, I want to thank you so much for joining me here at Faust and Company and sharing your magic. That is an honor for me, and I'm glad I finally got you on here. Please, Daniel, or could you give us a last minute thought as we close out the show?
Last year, I decided on a daily goal of mine. And I'd like to think that I haven't missed a single day. And the goal is something that we as magicians should do, but also people in general. And it's this: you need to help one person a day. That's it. Honestly, if you really help someone, and that's through listening or helping them emotionally or physically, if you help one person a day, you're doing fantastic. Even if that person is yourself, especially if that person is yourself.
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, this is DHP Gastelum. The wisdom I hope you take. And my name is Chris Heron. We thank you for coming here today and spending some time with us.